my dad would write a check to a client for like $7 if they overpaid. Like just being super honest and never looking to cut corners. I think that's a big part of why we've been successful. And then we all kind of have shared values of just putting the clients first. Our reputation is not worth like, any amount of money.
Sure. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Weapon X Holsters, quality handmade Kydex holsters made right here in Southern Utah. You can stop by the store, 1397 West Sunset Boulevard, number 115 in St. George, Utah. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derek Lake Podcast. Back in the vault again today. This is episode 114. We've got a local wealth of knowledge in here today. We're going to have a good conversation about different trusts, well, maybe I'll let you explain it. This is Lindsay Bayles. I'll let you take it over so I don't butcher it, right? How's it going?
Really good. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
For sure. I've been trying since we had your dad on, when we had Tom on.
Yeah.
Initially, like I love your dad, don't get me wrong, it's nothing against him, but when I went into the law firm that day, I was like, hey, you need to come on. We need to do this.
Yeah.
And you were just leaving town for school.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was.
And so I was like, all right, I guess we'll bring Tom in. And
No, I was like, hey, take Tom.
He's like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, no, dude, it's not that bad. Just come in and talk. But he did a great job. So we're going to kind of piggyback on that episode of him. We'll retouch some things that are relevant. So it's not like we're starting a conversation halfway through. So if people are hearing the same thing for a second time, that's fine. Just hang with us. It's been quite a few episodes since him, so it should all be somewhat fresh to people. I'll let you give a little bit of backstory on yourself. You don't have to get too far back. Maybe even just qualifications on what you're doing and what it took to get to that. If there's any stories, anything that pop up, I'll just let you run with that. Sure. So backstory us a little bit, who you are, where you come from, what you stand for, all that.
I can do that. So I am a third generation tax and estate planner. My grandfather was a tax professor at the University of Utah. He actually taught Ted Bundy for a whole year. Oh. He had him for 2 semesters while he was being investigated.
Jeez.
So he has some really interesting stories about that. But my grandfather was a lawyer. My dad's a lawyer. I grew up wanting to be a judge. And then as I started to get into college, I thought about dentistry. I really loved that. But ultimately, when you're at the dentist and they have their hands in your mouth, it's really awkward when they try to talk to you, and I enjoy talking to people.
There you go.
So I was like, well, maybe law will be a better route for me. And so I haven't looked back. I have a bachelor's degree from Utah Tech University. I have a Juris Doctor degree from Washburn University School of Law in Topeka, Kansas. And I'm almost done with my LLM in taxation from New York University.
That's impressive. Can I ask how old you are? Like, you're young enough where it's probably not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm 29.
Yeah, it's impressive. 29 is impressive to have all that done. And you got a bunch of underachieving siblings, so that's nice. Makes you look really good.
Yeah, I love it.
Shout out Andrew, Adam. Do you have other siblings?
Jared, yeah.
Jared.
Yep.
I think we're more like, I run across his social media page. I'm not sure if I've ever met him, but
he's great. Yeah, you'll need to run into him.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit. To me, it's trust. I'm not super versed in all of this. We actually have brought up right on your guys' website. So Proven Law is the law firm, and kind of frequent questions just to give us some content to kind of roll through. But maybe we can start it off by talking like why someone would even need you, why someone would even need the law firm, what you guys cover. And like we said before, I kind of want to cater this to like just the everyday person, not the multimillionaire that's trying to, put out all the inheritance to all their nephews and nieces and kids and
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe start there. Why would just an everyday person need you guys?
Yeah. So the most common person that needs us and they don't realize they need us is when they have a loved one pass away. So when your loved one passes away, if they own any assets, those assets need to be distributed to the heirs. And when you go to the bank to try and get the cash out of the bank, they're going to say, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, where's this person with the name on the account? And you bring them the death certificate. And depending on, like, that's not going to be enough. You can't just bring in the death certificate and the bank's not going to just write you a check.
Got you.
So then they call me frustrated that they can't, get the car or get the bank account or get the property. And then I help guide them through the process. And it kind of, depending on the assets that the person had before they passed away, will change our recommendation or the path they have to take in order to get access to the money or whatever the assets are.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to introduce that, because to me, and like what we did, like I'm still alive apparently. So like Amanda and I came in and set up all of our stuff.
Yeah.
And I've never really thought about it as someone that has already lost someone and now they need someone in their corner.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what do you guys do more of? Is it more, and is that what probate is considered?
Yeah.
Is that? Okay.
Yeah.
So is it more like estate planning or more probate, or are you guys 50-50? What would you think?
Yeah, we're probably 50-50 right now. We used to always be way more estate planning.
Okay.
People like you and Amanda who were proactive and were getting things organized so that your kids don't have that problem where they try to go to the bank and can't get access to things. But recently we've been doing a ton of probates as well.
I think for me, it was like, because we had talked at the store, and William would have been born by then. So for me, that's what it was for me, is like when Will was born, I was like, okay, we should probably get all this stuff lined out. But before that, I was like, well, what do I care? Like, I'm going to be gone. Like if I die, what do I care? And some of that was like Amanda too. I wanted to make sure that she was taken care of. And even life insurance, and this is when my dad died, and then we had a good family friend die that left 4 kids, and neither of them had insurance. I mean, my dad didn't have anything to leave, but like none of that stuff was in order, right? That's what kind of triggered me to like, okay, I need to go get some life insurance, and then I need to get all this. I mean, like we have multiple LLCs, and we have multiple we have property and so I'm like, we need to get all this stuff figured out of what happens to it if we go. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of people that come in that don't have kids and don't have heirs though? I mean, does that just go to siblings? How does that work? Or they just line it out, I guess? Yeah,
that's a really great question. So tonight, before I left work, I finalized drafts, and these people don't have any kids, and they're leaving a lot of their assets to Rescue, which is a local charity here for animals, and a university in the South. And one of them was a professor at that university. So that's, and then a couple friends and a sibling is how they're splitting theirs up. So you see a lot of different things, usually charities that mean something to them. I had a client who lost their dad in the line of duty in California. He was a police officer. And so they have a charity in California to help family members of someone that's lost somebody in the line of duty. So we organized it so that all of his assets go to that same charity to help pay it forward. And it's really rewarding to hear those stories and help be a part in that.
So what's something that you guys do that people don't, I would imagine most people don't know what you guys do. Yeah. And so that might be a really broad answer, but like what's something that you guys do regularly that people had no idea that your law firm would take care of?
I would say we do a lot of business formation, but we actually don't take clients generally that just ask for an LLC. We take a broader approach to planning. So really, the average person should have a revocable trust, and that revocable trust will own their LLC to help avoid problems after they pass away. Okay. So LLCs are.
Can we jump into that a little more?
Yeah, for sure.
So why would someone do that? What's the benefits? Is there any drawbacks? Just kind of dive into that.
Sure. So there's always drawbacks from having an LLC. I mean, from an administrative standpoint, if you have more than one person that owns the LLC, then that generates another tax return. So if you have 2 partners that own an interest in an LLC, there's another tax return you have to file. So as far as like administrative paperwork and a little bit more work that way, that's where an LLC could be a pain. Okay. But I think the pros far outweigh the cons. The pros would be you can have some asset protection. So if someone gets injured, like an employee gets injured while they're on the job, the liability could be limited to the assets within the business. And so the creditor, like that employee, wouldn't be able to go attach your personal like home necessarily. It'd be, assets within the LLC.
Okay. And then having the trust own them, what go back and forth on that too? What's the benefits? Is there drawbacks?
Yeah. So what do you think would happen if you died and you didn't have your trust with your business?
I have no idea because I'm 100% owner in all of them but one.
Yeah.
And the one I'm not, Amanda's the partner. So
on the one that Amanda's not a partner, what do you think that would be like for Amanda after you passed away trying to access the company?
Oh, yeah. She'd be calling you. That'd be a nightmare. She wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I pretty much run all of that. Mm-hmm. And so even just like signing in with passwords on things, she wouldn't know how to get into it. So,
and she wouldn't have the legal authority to if it wasn't in your trust.
Okay.
Because she's not a co-owner. So if you just have an LLC floating out there that's running a business and you have no like succession plan, you have no backup plan for who steps in, your business is kind of on hold until you go through the probate process, and a personal representative can be appointed by a judge. And then that personal representative would have the legal authority to go in and, fire or hire or manage or access the bank accounts. It could really be That's huge wild. Problem. Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Have you had stuff like that you guys have had to go fight? Is there a crazy story behind that? And if we can't share it, that's fine too.
Yeah. I can share things that are like, general that you can't identify a specific person. Sure. That's why I said a university in the South, because you probably know a lot of people that maybe.
Oh, it's not Alabama?
Yeah. No, it's not. So our firm, we're actually super lucky, in my opinion, that we don't handle any litigation because we're so busy with uncontested matters. So I don't have as many war stories as a probate and estate litigator, but I've read a ton of them in case law in my case books in law school. And I've seen, we have to refer cases out all the time to litigators where all the siblings are like arguing, or someone destroyed the will that wasn't the person that wrote the will. I had a probate in Arizona where the man who passed away, his girlfriend ripped up the will after he died because she wasn't in the will.
Oh my gosh.
And so I did have to deal with that in Arizona.
So what do you do?
So we had to put on evidence that the girlfriend destroyed it. And so the person who wrote the will wasn't the one revoking it, because if that's the argument she would make, right? Like, he's the one that revoked it, not me. So I should be the one receiving. Well, because she's his girlfriend, she also wouldn't really be entitled to anything, which is a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. People are like anti-marriage, which I get, but like there's a lot of benefits legally to being married.
Because I've always thought if I was an LDS, I would just live with Amanda.
Right. Yeah.
Let her be a single mom, get some tax benefits, some money from the government. It's weird because it's like you can really dive in super deep into this stuff, and it's like it's funny because every time I talk about it with you or your dad, or even I've mentioned it with Andrew and stuff, just talking a little bit over it. Like I learned something I had no idea that I signed up for. You know what I mean? Like even when I was talking to your dad, he asked me a couple times like, well, what would you do with this? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we did that, but I thought you were taking care of it. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What else? Should we pull something more of these up?
Sure.
You there, Blake? Will you scroll down?
Yep.
We kind of talked about why. Is there anything on there that you're like, I definitely want to hit this?
Yeah, we can talk about that one. That's a common question people have.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's basic. People, it's a whole new language for people, especially people that have never owned a business. Because for business owners, it makes sense. Like you're creating this separate legal entity. But for someone that's never owned a business, they're like, what happens? Like, why is my name not on that?
We can bring that up. So I'll just start in, and then I'll reference that we're pulling these off the website.
Sure.
So we're going to pull some of these frequently asked questions off the website and kind of go through that. So one that we kind of flagged on here is, if I put my checking account in a trust, will I be able to access those accounts to make withdrawals and deposits? And then I'll let you give the answer.
Yeah. So the answer is it depends, which is like the quintessential answer in law school.
Depends.
Yeah. Whenever a law professor asks you a question, like 99% of the time, the answer is it depends, which is maddening.
Sure.
But the reason it depends is it depends on the type of trust. So if you're putting your checking or savings accounts into an irrevocable trust, you're probably going to lose access to them. But the majority of people don't need an irrevocable trust. The average person needs a revocable trust.
Okay.
That just means that you can change it. It can be amended. You still have power over all the assets and control that are in the trust.
Irrevocable it's permanent. You're written in pen. Mm-hmm. And a revocable, that makes sense. See, I didn't know that. So that makes sense that so you can go in and alter it and change it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Can I transfer ownership of life insurance policy to a trust?
So do you want to open that up?
Yep.
So generally we update the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, not the ownership necessarily.
Okay.
So like you would still be the insured and the owner of your policy, but your primary beneficiary would be your trust.
Okay.
So when you pass away, the money, a check would be written out to your trust and it'd be deposited into your trust checking account.
Okay. And not that this is on the board for Amanda and I, but what happens when you have this stuff all pre-set up and a divorce comes in? Like, is that just a whole can of worms at that point?
Yeah, it is. It's a can of worms on both ends. So if you do your estate planning, you get married and you don't update your estate planning, it makes a mess. And if you do your estate planning, you get divorced and you don't update your estate planning, it's a mess for sure. So it's one reason why I love estate planning is because it's a lifelong relationship with multiple generations of people. So I get to be there through the life events and help guide them.
And then what about someone that is divorced? I'm just trying to figure out how to word this. If someone is divorced and they need to go get this set up, does that make sense? I'm not wording that very well. So why would someone that is divorced and maybe has life insurance and they have a kid, let's say they have a kid together, what would be the benefits of going to get this done after a divorce when you have kids?
I can remind them to take off their ex-husband from the life insurance policy.
Right. I'm sure that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. It's wild. One instance I had just a couple months ago was there was a client, he and his wife owned a ton of property together, and their divorce decree said that he was supposed to get this one property, but her name was still on the deed. So when I researched it in that county, they were joint owners. And so that could open up a whole nother can of worms down the road for their kids to fight over that. The divorce decree should still like overrule and govern what happens to that. But like, why do you need to go through court to like hash that out? Whereas we helped him get a signature from his ex and like sign it all over to him. We put it in his trust and like cleaned it up. So we can help a lot with actually carrying out that divorce decree and making sure things are organized and properly titled.
So, I mean, this is all, like you just said, it's a generational thing. So this is something that gets updated. Like you should be actively looking at this when things change. I mean, that's a reminder to me. I'm sitting there thinking, is there anything I've got to change on what we have?
Yeah.
Because I think right after we bought our California property, we came in and set all that up. So that would be the last one that we did. But let me go back to these questions. We did what's the difference between a revocable trust and a will?
It's a really good one. So one of the most common misconceptions is I have a will, I'm good. It's not true. So if you have a will and you own $101,000 or $100,001 in the state of Utah, you still have to go through probate. So people think that having a will helps them get out of probate. And I can explain a little bit about what probate is. I
Sure.
don't know if we've done that yet.
Yeah, we can jump in.
But probate is the court supervised process of transferring money from someone that's passed away to their heirs or whoever under law is supposed to get those assets.
Okay.
I like to think of it as what would happen if that wasn't the case. And I picture like old Wild West movies where there's like shootouts and fighting. And if the court wasn't involved in that, it would be really difficult to buy a property because you'd never know, like, did the person who gave this to me actually have the legal authority to sell it to me? So having the probate process helps like society just runs more smoothly, even though people hate having to go through it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like a negative thing to have to get to that point, right? But I guess it's a necessity to have that as well. But so what protects you from ever having to do that?
So really the main way to avoid probate is having a fully funded revocable trust. There are some other ways you can avoid probate, but that's the main way for most people. And a revocable trust is an entity, kind of like an LLC. It's just a separate legal entity that you create, and then you transfer ownership of your assets to that trust. And so the cool thing is you can set up somebody, and that person is called a successor trustee. That successor trustee, if you pass away, they can immediately go take over managing those assets on your behalf. Whereas if you didn't have that in place, you'd have to go through court, and a judge would have to appoint someone to have the legal authority to go manage the assets.
Okay, so when someone has a will, like what classifies as a will? If I have like a piece of paper drawn out in my safe, is that a will?
It could be. It depends on the state. Every state has different rules. That'd be a holographic will, a handwritten will. It has to have your handwritten signature. It can't be a fill in the blank will. It has to be substantially in your own handwriting.
Okay.
I believe it has to have the date. There's a few requirements in the statute. You could look it up.
Well, like when someone says I tore up the will, I'm like, oh, we're talking like a literal piece of paper.
Yeah.
And like your lawyer doesn't have a copy of this. Like it's just a piece of paper floating around. People do that. That's wild.
Yeah, I had one today.
I had one today.
Yeah. It was just like, it's really cool to see, actually.
I mean, is that just kind of like the old school thinking of it? I mean, everything you hear is like last will and testimony, right? But this is different from that. This is more protection, I would imagine, right? And it's more it like even when we sat down and did ours, like I was not thinking it was going to go as deep as it did. As far as like, well, Will gets everything. Well, when does he get it? And I was like, I don't know, when he's 18. Okay, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, yeah, 25.
What do you think would happen if he got everything at 18?
Oh, he'd be terrible.
Like
He'd have a Ferrari out front.
immediately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only 2. He'd probably just have monster trucks. That's what he would have. Go buy monster trucks and a loader, and he'd be jacked.
He'd be so happy. Mom and Dad, where are they? I don't care. I've got my monster
Exactly.
trucks.
That's him right now. His whole world is monster trucks and construction equipment. Like YouTube to us is trucks to him.
Oh, wow.
So he'll say, I want to watch trucks. And that just means he wants to get on YouTube and watch something.
That's cute. I love that.
He's a character. He'll be 3 next month. He's a character. But yeah, even past that, it was like, okay, well, until he's 25, who has control? Well, let's say, Will happens to be in the car with you and all of you guys pass. Now what? And it was funny when we finished, I called one of my brothers and I'm like, congratulations, dude. If I die, Amanda has to die. And if she dies, then William has to die. And if William dies, then Mom has to die. And if Mom has to die, you get like an 1/8 of our wealth, which right now is like $8. So you're going to get $1. Yeah. I was like, you're in there. I made sure you're in there.
I imagine that it will be much more than $8 or $1 by then.
Right now, it might be like -$8. You might have to go pay someone $8. Hopefully that changes by the time I bite the bullet. But maybe let's pull up another one of these, Blake. Sorry, can you scroll down again? If you see one, stop us.
Yeah.
What estate planning documents will I likely need if I own real estate?
Yeah, that's a great
I didn't
question.
prep you on any of these, so.
It's okay. Luckily, I just focus on, this is my only practice area. I know estate planning, tax planning, and probate. If you have a criminal problem, I am absolutely
you.
not the right person. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what we kind of talked about earlier was I didn't, I mean, when I say I didn't, I mean like 10 years ago, but you just think a lawyer is a lawyer.
Right.
And it's just not the case. There's all these specialties like a doctor. But sorry, let me pull that question back up. What estate planning documents will I likely need if I own real estate?
Yeah. If you own real estate, you need a revocable trust for sure. In the state of Utah, if you own any real estate, even like a piece of land that has no water rights, no mineral rights, maybe it's worth $30,000, that will still trigger probate.
What I mean, just even a personal home for sure. I guess a personal home.
Yeah. If you own your home, even if you haven't paid your home off, if you owe the bank 99% of what your home is worth, it'll still trigger probate.
And it's like, where's that 1% go?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Then we talked about what is probate. Anything else on there you want to hit? Sorry, Blake, I'm making you scroll around a lot. What was that child in college one? My child is starting college this year. What documents should my child have in place?
Yeah, that's a good one. So 2 really basic foundational estate planning documents are healthcare directives and durable powers of attorney. In both of those documents, you are nominating someone to act on your behalf. So a healthcare directive, what do you think that does for you?
Is that the one where like who gets to pull the plug or who decides who pulls the plug?
Yeah,
we went through that, I think.
Yeah, that's called, so people know that as a living will. In here in Utah, we have the living will as a portion of the healthcare directive. So it also covers other things like, do you want to be an organ donor? Do you want to participate in medical research? Do you want to leave your body to science? Do you want to be cremated? Like there's a lot of different things that you can do without that within the healthcare directive. So it's pretty interesting, but the biggest part of it that people think about is when to pull the plug and who's going to do that. Who's going to communicate with your doctors if you're not able to do that?
Well, it was funny. Like when you guys asked us that, I like turned to Amanda and I'm like, well, you get to decide. She's looking at me like, I don't know if I want you to decide. And I honestly, I don't remember. I think that we put her sister decides or something that has more of a medical background.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up doing that because I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to be in the place to want to decide. And I think that was kind of a lot of these things, that was kind of the trick is I'm like, dude, if something happens to you, I don't know if I should be making decisions on things right away. And like, I mean, I would imagine I would still seek input from other people and whatnot, but even like, and I know we're not talking insurance here, but that was kind of a thing someone brought up with me was like if Amanda dies and I'm distraught, obviously, and I can't, and I wouldn't have to go to work tomorrow to fund my life, right? Like we would have some of that in there to buffer if it took me 2 weeks to go back to work. And like a lot of different things no one really thinks of until you're in that issue. Yeah. And that's exactly what all of this is. Free consultations, it says it right there. That's what I was going to bring up next. Yeah. So I know when I did it, I just got on your website and scheduled I just scheduled a call. I don't remember.
Yeah, we do initial like free call, phone conference, Zoom meeting, or in person if you're here in St. George. But we have attorneys licensed in California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, soon to be North Dakota. And I'm working on my license for Idaho and Wyoming, but I'm busy enough as it is. So we'll see if I finish sending those in.
You need more time in the day.
I know, I really do. I wish I didn't have to sleep. I think that'd be great. Because I love what I do. I wish I could do more of it. But we're, like we were saying earlier, trying to embrace some technology to help us be able to help more people out.
Yeah. So growth has been huge for you guys. And it seems like it's like you were saying, it's every year though. So you've kind of had to endure a little bit of the growth already, year after year. But why do you think that is? I'll let you kind of dive into what you guys are doing to help out, help grow, and then what things you've put in place. I guess what I'm trying to say is like how you're scaling, right?
Yeah.
And like you had said before, now we have a full-time on board, we have these different things. So kind of talk about that, how the business is structured. Not that I mean, you're like, dude, I'm just working there.
Yeah,
Bro.
I'm just an employee. I'm a W-2 employee.
But I love, like, I want to hear like what you guys did to get to where you're at. And I
Sure.
think being the younger generation in the law firm, you probably have some hand in that. So I'll let
Yeah.
you kind of take it away.
Sure. So my dad started practicing law in, I want to say 1997. He worked for another law firm, a really great law firm, learned a ton, had an amazing mentor there, and they offered him partnership, and he had to buy in. I think it was maybe $50,000. And his friends who had recently left that same law firm, they started their own law firm. They're like, hey, if you take $50,000, you can come join us and you can get a lot of clients for $50,000, or you could, fund your house and just start your own business. So he decided to jump ship and went in and was a business owner at about year 5. And a lot of lawyers aren't offered partner just 5 years out of law school. Was pretty fast for
Sure.
a small town. And so,
Is that here? Is that St. George?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
yeah, he was here in St. George. So he went out and started that with some other really great lawyers in town. Bruce Jenkins, Robert Jensen. They're just a lot of really phenomenal lawyers that I've been able to observe and learn from over the years. And they're not partners anymore, but they're still, great friends and respect each other a lot. So it's been interesting my whole life seeing him progress. And in 2020, he and Robert Jensen split up, and Robert has his own firm where they kind of focus on construction law and business law. And my dad, he was like, I want to focus on estate planning and tax. And before that, they had like construction workers and like older people doing their estate planning, and there'd be like dirt on the floor, and they just like didn't really mesh like the
Sure.
two practice areas. So they went and did their own things. And since he made that decision, the business has just skyrocketed, because when you're focused on one practice area, the receptionist knows everything. Whereas before, the receptionist had to know construction law, they had to know litigation, they had to know property disputes, estate planning, business. Like, it's just a lot harder for them. So with the business a lot more focused on just estate planning, tax planning, and probate, anyone that answers the phone is going to know like whether or not we can help somebody. So that was probably the first big change, was just he is the sole owner of the business, and it's just focused on those.
Yeah, it's ultra
practice areas.
focused. Yeah. It's like, hey, these are the few things we do, and we're great at those few things.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
You had something else.
No, you're good. And then since then, it was him and another attorney, Philip Gubler, and he's been working with Philip, I think for 14 years they've been working together.
Wow.
So Philip is just a super smart, super honest, hardworking guy. And I attribute that to our success, or to the success of the firm, is just the quality and the characteristics of the people that work there. So my dad would write a check to a client for like $7 if they overpaid. Like, just being super honest and never looking to cut corners. I think that's a big part of why we've been successful. And then we all kind of have shared values of just putting the clients first. Our reputation is not worth any amount of money.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, with our store, that's really what we try to do. We're just here to educate you. I mean, I've had to let people walk out of the store because I'm like, dude, I think that one over there is probably better for you, or people they just want like a file box that is fire protection. I'm like, yeah, dude, we don't have those, but dude, like Home Depot, bro, like you can go pick one up over there.
Maybe you should start selling those, because we could send a lot of people that need something for their estate planning.
We'll just have them buy a full size safe.
Yeah, there you go.
We should like go put a display over at the law firm. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
So what do you think is what's your role and what you do there? And then what's like I think 5-year goal's cheesy, but like, what's your future? What are you seeing? You're a lifer. It sounds like you love doing it. So kind of tell me what your role is and then what you want to do moving forward.
Yeah. So my role right now, I'm an attorney, but I supervise, I think five team members right now. I think we have 17 employees. So I supervise our intake specialist. So she and I built out the whole intake role where all she does is handle leads, follow up on leads, and prep those initial consultations. So she does the research and makes sure that we have all the information we need to have a productive meeting. So I supervise her. I supervise a couple of part-time employees. So I'm definitely not. I'm glad I'm not like the person having to direct the firm. That's Tom, and he supervises all the attorneys. We have four full-time attorneys and 2 part-time attorneys right now. And then we just hired another full-time paralegal. We have a remote full-time paralegal, 4 in-person legal assistants / paralegals. So it's a pretty full-time receptionist, full-time intake specialist. Like, we got a pretty big team that we're running. And I guess 5-year goal, I'm definitely going to still be doing estate planning. I could see myself staying at Proven Law indefinitely. There's a couple firms that I really love, though, in Henderson. There's a firm, it's called Jeffrey Burr, and I spent my 2nd summer. So if I ever left Proven Law, it would be to go hang out with them. Rebecca Hines, she mentored me a ton when I was in law school and working there. Jeffrey Burr is just a super great guy, really similar to my dad in that they treat people well, and their business has skyrocketed in that area. So I imagine I'll still be around. I don't know for sure where I'll be.
Tom keeping options open here.
Yeah, I get some job offers in LinkedIn, pretty regularly, or recruiters.
And they do estate planning down there in Henderson? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's same. I mean, is that all you can do? Can you do other ones with your degrees, or is it more of just an experience thing? What else could you do?
I could do anything that I could give competent advice in. So
okay,
there's state bars in every state, and the state bar has certain ethical rules. So we have to follow these rules, and if we don't follow them, we can lose our license. We can be fined, like really bad things. In Nevada, they actually publicly shame you, and they they publish all the names of attorneys that have done something wrong and what they did. So as long as you can provide competent representation, you can practice any type of law. But I liken it to a brain surgeon. Do you really want a brain surgeon operating on your colon?
Sure.
Probably not.
Could they maybe cut you open and stitch you shut? Probably.
Yeah. But is that the person you want to be doing that? Yeah.
No.
In the tax world, or in the legal world, attorneys hear the word tax and shudder. So we are definitely in the really complex, specialized area of the law, which is a lot of fun to play in.
Well, and it's even going in there and setting up all my own stuff. I still, like I said, I'm still learning things that I didn't even know, and I'm have that base covered, and I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to some friends, happily married, divorced, maybe getting divorced, kids, no kids. And ever since I went in, and to be honest, you're the one that when you came into the store and you guys were looking for something, you and Andrew came in and you started hitting me with all these things. And I'm like, yeah, dude, we don't care about that, and that's what really kind of got me thinking, I should probably put some of this stuff in place. And then, again, with Will was already born, but having your kids, you got to get this stuff in line. I mean, it just terrifies me to think. And I mean, do most people have it though? If you have a net worth of X amount, I don't know what that would be, but people that have done it have thought about this, right? Or are there tons of people out there that haven't? That's probably a broad question.
Yeah. Why don't you Google how many people have a will in the United States? Let's see what comes up.
They keep statistics on that?
Yeah, there's organizations that track it. Estate planning statistics.
45%.
All right. Oh, excuse me. The Gallup. Okay, so here's a Gallup poll. How many Americans have a will? 45%, they said. So,
and that's not a trust though. That's just a will.
That's just a will. Yeah, it could be the napkin, that you're the piece of paper.
Exactly.
Right.
They read it on the back of a Wendy's receipt or whatever.
Yeah.
As he's dying.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
So even less would have a trust then.
Yeah, for sure. So on that note, write it on the napkin as you're dying. One of my favorite 67 have no estate plan, 67%.
And yeah, interesting.
Yeah, COVID-19 did increase Americans' awareness of the need to have a will. I think a lot of people realized that they're not immortal. I had a couple classmates die from COVID, and, you know, word on the street was if you're young and healthy, you're fine. And there are some young and healthy people that passed away from that. And I think that really made people think.
Yeah, you kind of think you're invincible until something hits and you start realizing you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a case in law school of a farmer who got into an accident with his tractor. I don't remember if it rolled or whatever happened, but he was pinned, and I think he scratched a will into the tire of his tractor.
And that holds up?
That was a valid, yeah. I believe that the result in that case was that it was a valid will.
Wow. What else you see on there, Blake?
I'm not seeing anything that you haven't covered before, but I've just noticed a lot more like viral clips or social media information talking about trusts and estate planning and how to avoid certain taxes, you know. So TikTok has actually become a really, really good source of information for a lot of like, you know, attention grabbing stuff like, wait, what? I need that? What is that? And then they go research it, right? So
yeah, I have a client a potential client that I'm hoping comes in. They are
you talking about Blake?
yeah, Blake, come on, let's go.
Well, the whole time me and Mal are just nodding our heads. Like, we need this. We need to do this. What Derek's done.
But yeah, I want to be the beneficiary of all your guys' funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give you like 20 cents, like your brother. Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, there's this local influencer, has a ton of followers, and she, I don't know where she heard it from. I haven't like met with her yet, but she heard about this certain type of trust that's a more complex tax trust. So we won't get into that too much, but I'm excited. I hope she comes in. So we'll see. I really love educating younger people and helping them understand the benefits of estate planning. And I mean, I do it when I'm shopping for safes too, apparently. I just talk about it all the time.
Well, I could tell. I was like, this is your world. Like when you were hitting me with stuff and I was like, I guess in my head, I'm like, I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Out loud, I was like, we're all right. We don't need any of that.
So I will say a business tip is buy stuff on Facebook Marketplace or even pick up stuff for free. I've probably got more than 10 clients from buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace and just being friendly and talking to them. And they ask what I do because I'm normally in a suit because I'm picking it up after work.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of clients that way. It's fun just getting to know people.
That's your network.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Networking on Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah. Picking up some chairs out of your garage. Do you have estate planning?
Buying spatulas.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's no really like lead into that. Well, I mean, I guess there is if you're in like full conversations, but if you just meet someone, you're just like, do you have estate planning?
Yeah.
It like catches people off guard.
I don't do that. I should try it, see how it goes.
Well, so I think like Blake kind of touched on that. Using social media could be a huge thing. Well, like you said right now, you're still trying to stabilize with all the new growth that you guys already have, but being able to utilize, like you said, technology and taking TikTok and blowing out something like that. Like hopefully you get one or two people from being on here, right? But what have you guys done anything like that? Do you have any social medias? What do you guys think you're going to move through in the future? Yeah. I didn't think Tom would know about TikTok, but maybe he does.
He does have TikTok. I think
Nice.
he's STG attorney, maybe.
Okay.
Not quite sure, but yeah, we have a Twitter page that's like dead quiet. We have a Facebook page that we post on quite a bit. We have a blog, a website we keep up. We have a YouTube channel that my grandpa actually tells a story of having Ted Bundy in his class as
really?
a professor. Yeah.
What is that? Do you know the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's just Proven Law.
Okay.
And I think it's I Taught Ted Bundy is like
That's
what it's called.
Good
'cause he
tagline.
did. And so we have a YouTube channel. We have a TikTok. Yeah, here we go. Let's see if it comes up.
Oh, I'm glad nothing dirty came up, Blake. Jeez,
There
just
he
pulling that
is.
right up.
There's Grandpa.
I taught Ted Bundy. He's got multiple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Yeah, 32. That's a lot of views.
Yeah, for a channel that has like no followers.
That's
Well,
awesome. There's so many people that are obsessed with true crime.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we have a TikTok with maybe one video on it for the
really?
firm. My own TikTok, I have some videos. I've tried to just like test the waters by doing stupid viral stuff, but I haven't started educating yet. So that's the thing. I really admire that you've been doing that.
I think the educating part of it for you guys, I mean, it's still like I've said it 4 times already. Like I'm still learning at what I even signed up for.
Yeah.
And so being able to, and even like fielding questions, and I probably should have been better prepared of having like questions for you. So that's my fault. When you come on next, we'll have some better questions. But I would even like, if we can get people to comment or write to us or whatever, I kind of want to start doing something with the podcast, and maybe this will never happen. I don't know. So I've had these thoughts. Like Blake and I get on and do like a little conspiracy episode, right? And I thought like, we should like do a series with that, or like every 4 episodes we do another one, or like maybe every quarter we bring you guys back on and have questions and whatnot, and have you guys go through it. Blake, do you got any questions? I mean, you guys have kind of thought about having something like this done. Maybe I'll ask you.
I would love to do a series with Lindsay and Tom and really dive deep into this. And then maybe what we could do is distribute all that content to you guys to use on your pages as well. So if you want to dip your toes in the water of educating, because this is the thing, I think people just need financial literacy and legal literacy about the things that we're missing out on as for lack of a better term, like we're kind of peasants, we just don't know what's accessible. I would love that.
Yeah, I think the education factor is definitely a need out there. And I never even would have thought about it if you didn't come in the store and start asking me about it. And I didn't even know that's what you guys did. Like I knew Andrew's dad was a lawyer, but that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And so what else you got?
So one of my professors, his biggest like mantra in estate planning or like goal was to promote family harmony. That's like ingrained into my head, because whenever you're looking to solve a problem, which the problem is passing assets from one person to another or multiple people, you can do that in a ton of different ways. There's a lot of different vehicles. You can leave stuff to charity. You can leave stuff to your kids equally at age 18. You can leave it to them, 25% at age 25 with the remainder at age 30. And all of those things have different like implications. And you can do things to minimize taxes. There's tons of different things to take into consideration when doing your estate planning. But I think that professor really opened my eyes into the importance of promoting family harmony through all of that. So whatever a person's goals are in estate planning, to just make sure that the advice that I give helps them avoid pitfalls that could lead to litigation or hurt feelings or problems after they pass away. For instance, then one of the number one things that I see is a really tight-knit family. They'll come in and just say, make Derek my successor trustee, and then just leave everything to Derek. He'll do the right thing. That's like
a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And what's going to happen if you receive all of that money and you are being sued? Like your creditor could get all of that money and then your siblings wouldn't get anything. What happens if you have a disability and you inherit all that money and then you get kicked off of your government disability that you need? So, or what happens if you inherit that money and your sibling like takes you off? Like you don't
screw you, Billy.
Yeah, you don't have to give them anything because your parents left it all to you and just said they'll do the right thing. So I try to talk people out of that all the time. And I explain to them, if you want your kids to get along, don't do that. Make sure, like, you just say what you want to happen. If you have a special needs child that's going to need more support, leave more money to that child. If you want it equally to your kids, do that. But don't leave it all to one person and just say, Derek, you've got it.
Yeah. You'll do the right thing. You'll figure it out. It'll all be fair at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would suck. I would be like, leave it to someone else. Let them make that decision. I don't want to do that.
Or just like say, hey, give it equally to all of us. And yeah, Derek can be in charge of giving out all the distributions, but Derek has to follow the rules set up in the trust. And that helps promote family harmony because your siblings know that your parents wanted this, and then that's what you carry out and make happen.
So do people, like, say you have a property that's worth $100,000 and you put in there, are people putting in there that this person gets that property, or are they putting, I guess you can word it however you want. That's the cool part of it. But do people say like split everything up equally to kids, and there's something like that you can't just split up? I mean, what do you guys do in that case? Like, I don't know. I'm sitting there trying to think, like, my grandparents have a lot of properties, and I would imagine they have all this done already. But like, it was funny because they came down. So my grandparents are in their 80s. My grandpa came down with this list of all of his firearms. He'll probably get mad that I'm telling this on here because now the government knows. But he's probably gonna have a boating accident before then and when he dies. But he kind of said like, who gets this, who gets this, who gets this. So it was kind of cool. Like, we almost sat there with him and like, I think for the most part, everyone kind of just agreed on it. And he even had it down to like, I have this safe and so gets that safe. And it was like down to each particular thing instead of this is the value, split it up between everyone. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I guess that's what's cool is you can really line that out however you want.
Yeah.
And I never really, like you had mentioned, give a percentage at this age and then the rest at that age. Do people ever do like, so say you have properties that are cash flowing, real estate that's cash flowing. It would be cool to line it up to be like, every month they're getting an allotment. Mm-hmm. Do people do, is that a common thing?
Yeah.
Instead of like, you just get this house that's now cash flowing and then someone goes and sells that house and buys their Ferrari and monster trucks, right?
Yeah.
And instead of that, you don't get the property, but you get the funds that come off the property.
Yeah, definitely. There's an infinite number of ways that we can structure things. This week we had a parent come in with a couple newly adult children, and the parent helped them set up their own trust and their own LLC and gave them a rental property. Dang. Because they wanted their kid to learn how to manage property. And they could have given them a whole lot more than a rental property. But it's a neat way for that parent, even during their life, to help teach their kids some responsibility. And to answer your question, like what to do if you have a property that you maybe don't want to sell, but you also can't split it 4 ways. There's a lot of different things you can do, and it depends on the type of property. So let's say it's like a ranch. You could put the ranch into what we call a family LLC. The family LLC is a specialized LLC that has provisions that try to keep that LLC in the family for multiple generations. So it doesn't allow people to just sell their interest to whomever. So there's different transfer restrictions are some of the things that we put in there. And then people can inherit a fraction of that family LLC, and then they can use the whole cabin or the whole ranch. And they'd come up with an agreement on how many times a year they can go or whatever.
Yeah, that's your fraction is 2 weeks a year or whatever.
Yeah. So you can put a property into an LLC, the trust owns the LLC, and then your beneficiaries inherit a fraction of that LLC.
So, I mean, if you own anything or have retirement or life insurance or anything like that, you need to get one of these set up.
Generally, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if someone has $5 to their name and they have creditors calling them, maybe it's not super for them.
Yeah. Even, sometimes with an only child, they'll think, oh, I don't need estate planning. Yeah. I told a lady, she had her only child come to the meeting. I said, you really could handle this with a transfer on death deed because you just have one beneficiary. But your kids, like what if your son predeceases you?
Yeah.
It doesn't really cover all the contingencies because her son had minor kids. And when you have minor kids, it's usually much better to have a trust to hold those assets so that the minor kids don't inherit it outright at age 18. You can have it be a little bit later, have more control over the distributions.
See, that's what this all is. It's all a what if thing. So it's like, yeah, everyone should do this, but if you don't, what if? And so that's what's almost hard to talk about because there's millions and millions of what ifs. I think we need to switch the game on that. We got to figure out how, and maybe you already have, but we need to figure out how just that question gets brought up so the education can happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just, I mean, you guys are a content factory of just things that are happening every day, but maybe you need to do the TikTok education and just turn it to that. Had this come in today, this is why this, and this.
Yeah. It'd be fun. It'd be a lot of fun. I had a client yesterday where the husband is like super, strong, tough guy. And as we were going through the will, he just like started tearing up and he was thinking about like losing his wife. And it's just cool to see like that intimate part of people's lives and help walk them through the what ifs and then give them peace of mind when they finish signing their documents. Like life is hard, life can suck, but it's also, amazing and you can learn a ton. And when you have this in place, it takes a lot of that pressure off and the what ifs don't matter as much. Like it helps people just live their life knowing, the most likely contingencies or most likely issues that could arise are taken care of. Like people that I love and that I trust are in place to, handle everything on my behalf. And that I get a lot of satisfaction from that.
Well, I think it's all those things you don't want to deal with or like just mentally you are not equipped to deal with when someone dies. And I mean, my wife's still alive. I mean, I lost my dad a few years ago. We didn't have a huge relationship when he did die. But I just think about like those things, you don't know what you're going to go through till it happens. Right. And so to have that protection already built in, and it's almost like I said, it's like the life insurance thing. It's like, someone that knows that they're on their way, maybe they have cancer and they're on their way out, right? Like they get to go and pick all of these things. We go to the mortuary and we pick all of this, right? Like they have time to do all of that. Mm-hmm. Well, the majority of the people like probably don't.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why at 30, I don't know, 31, 32 years old, when I went in there, I kind of felt weird about like, okay, do I really need to set this up at 30?
Yeah.
But for us, it was more, and don't get me wrong, it's not like we're like wealthy, but we just had a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of LLCs, we have different property, and if anything ever happened to me, like I wouldn't want Amanda's head just spinning trying to deal with all of this. I mean, like I have 3 businesses that run every day. And so having her, and she works full time and on call, and we have a 2-year-old. And so having her having to deal with her life right now, that's already extremely stressful, and then having all of my crap on top of her too, like that terrifies me. And so like, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's, I think it's like a responsibility really. And my big push over the last year, not calendar year, but the last year has been like generational wealth. And that was kind of a part of it too, is let's set up will. And I don't know, I don't think there's going to be another kid, but if there is, like have all that lined up already.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my plea with anyone listening. If you haven't done this stuff, or if you need to update it, if you need to have those conversations, people need to seek you guys out. And it's like I said, just all the knowledge that you guys have with it, and it's free. I mean, the consultation's free. So, and I know for a fact, like I trust you guys that if it came to the point where maybe it's not a fit for that person, you guys would tell them. And you know
absolutely.
what I mean? And that's what your business is built on. So like, I believe that. So yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, just, happy to chat with anyone that has questions. And like you said, if you want to comment questions below, maybe we'll have a series where we can go more into detail.
Yeah. Do a little check-in and awesome. Okay. Episode 114, Lindsay Bayles, you own it. It's yours. Okay. All right, guys, if you're still with us, appreciate you being here. Hopefully you've learned a lot. Hopefully you took some notes. Give Lindsay, Tom a call, Proven Law. Go follow all their social medias. If you're just a weird Ted Bundy guy, you can go listen to Grandpa talk about him. But appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys next week.